Okay, boys and girls, this is Math 5.6, page 231 in your math book. And today we are going to divide decimals. So our question today is, how can you place the decimal point in the quotient? Remember, the quotient is the answer. So the quotient, the answer to a division problem. This is really important. I wrote this rule up here. So whenever you're thinking about how to do these problems, refer back to this rule. You must multiply the dividend and the divisor by the same power of 10. What you want is you want to have the number be a whole number. So you want to figure out how to get it to that. So if you have, well, actually not, you don't want a whole number, but you want it to be able to be the same power of 10. So here, 6 divided by 3 equals 2. If you want to have the same power of 10 for that, those aren't power of 10s. But if you multiply them by 10, you'll have the same power of 10. So if I multiply 60 by 30, I'm going to get 2, which is the same as 6 divided by 3 equals 2. If I divide 600 by 300, I'm going to get 2. Same with over here. If you have 120 divided by 3, if you multiply it times a decimal, a tenth, you're going to still get the same number, 4. So that's kind of what you want to remember, that the quotient's affected when you only you multiply it by 100. Okay, so let's look at the first problem, and then actually I'll show you a couple of examples before we go. Oops. So over here are some examples. So if we wanted to multiply 0.54 and 0.06, those are hundredths. So if I multiply each of those by 100, that would be 54 divided by 6, and I'm going to get 9. And that's my answer, because remember, the reason that it's 9 is because, remember, no matter what power of 10 you multiply, it's still going to equal the same number. This is 60 times 30 equals 2. 600 divided by 30 equals 2. So no matter what you multiply it by, if you multiply it by hundreds, by tenths, any power of 10, it's still going to equal the same. So this one, I'm going to multiply it by tenths to get it to be an equal power of 10. So that would be 36 divided by 3. And I get 12. Okay, so you multiply those by 10, so this and this would equal 12. Multiply by a power of 10 and you get the same number. I know it can get a little confusing, but if you think about it, look here. 120 divided by 30 equals 4 is the same as 12 divided by 3. It still equals 4. So these are all equal right here. So remember, no matter what number, power of 10, because it's the same, it's just multiplying a power of 10. Okay, so let's do a couple more. It'll make more sense as you go. Matthew has 72 cents. He wants to buy stickers that cost 8 cents. So how many stickers can he buy? You're going to multiply both the dividend and the divisor by the power of 10 that makes the divisor a whole number. So you want to make it a whole number because it's easier. So if I have 72 hundredths and 8 hundredths, I know that I'm going to multiply them by 100 to get it to equal a whole number, which is 72 divided by 8. So I know that 72 hundredths divided by 8 hundredths is going to be 9, which is the same as 72 divided by 8 equals 9. So Matthew can buy 9 stickers. What do you multiply hundredths by to get a whole number? 100. So think hundredths. You're going to multiply by 100. If you have tenths, you're going to multiply by 10. If you have thousandths, you're going to multiply by 1,000. So do you see the pattern there? Hundredths, multiply by 100, 10 by tenths, tenths by 10, and thousandths by 1,000. Okay, so how do you know that the quotient 0.72, 72 hundredths, divided by 8 hundredths is equal to 72.8? We know this because both the divisor and dividend are multiplied by Sherry hikes on a Pacific Ocean trail. She plans to hike 3.72 miles. If she hikes at an average speed of 1.2 miles an hour, how long will she hike? We're not going to estimate, but you do want to multiply the divisor by a power of 10 to make it a whole number. We always want to make sure that this number is a whole number. This one has to be a whole number. So in order to get that to be a whole number, we're going to multiply it by 10. We get 12, and then we're going to multiply 3.72 times 10, and we get 37.2. So that's our new problem. Remember, it's going to equal the same. You just bring the decimal point right up, straight up. So step 2, write the decimal point in the quotient above the decimal point in the new dividend. Then we're going to use our remembering how to do our long division. Dumb monkeys sell, not CB, checkered bananas is what it should say. And then we're going to divide, multiply, subtract, check, and bring down. So now we're just going to divide like we normally would. And the answer is 3.1. And again, move the decimal point up 1. So 37 2/10 divided by 12 is equal to 3 1/10, which is the same as 3.72 divided by 1.2. Remember, we multiplied them both by 10, so it's going to equal the same number. So number 2, what happens to the decimal point when you multiply by 10? It moves one place to the right. Now we're going to do the next problem. Try this. Divide 0.14 divided by 1.96. So remember, we need this number to be a whole number. So in order to do that, that's hundredths. So that's 14 hundredths. So we're going to multiply the divisor and the dividend by 100. Okay, so then if I multiply it by 100, I'm going to get 14. And then if I multiply it by 100, I'm going to divide, it's going to be 1.96 times 100 will be 196. So how many times does that go in there? Fourteen times. So now it's really 14 divided by 196. So there's no decimal point in that one. Okay, next problem. Okay, let's look at the patterns here. So here it's just showing you the pattern that when you multiply it by powers of 10, it's going to equal the same thing. So if I have 45 divided by 9, that's equal to 5. 4.5 divided by 0.9 is equal to 5. Now, now I have hundredths here, so I need this number to show a hundredth. So here we have ones, tenths, hundredths. So you just need to be looking for the pattern to complete it. Okay. Okay. So now you're going to use that same thing, the same issue or the same rule that I taught you before. Remember, you want this number has to be a whole number. So if I have 1.6, so that's 1 6/10, how am I going to make that a whole number? I'm going to multiply it by 10. So if I multiply 1.6 by 10, I'm going to get 16. So I have to make sure that I do that to both. So you're going to also multiply 9.6 by 10 and you're going to get 96. So now I can do 16 divided by 96. And then that is your answer. You don't have to put decimal points in there because you've already multiplied them by 10. Okay, so again, that doesn't change. 9.6 divided by 1.6 is going to be the same as 96 divided by 16. And you can remember that from looking at these patterns. Look at these patterns, and then that'll hopefully make sense. Okay, so number 5, if we have 3/10 times 24 hundredths, remember, you want this to become a whole number. So if I have 3/10 and I want that to become a whole number, I'm going to multiply that by tens, right? Then I get 3. I have to do that to my 24 also, 24 hundredths. And again, this time it's going to be 2.4 because it's only going to move over one time because it's only by 10. But that's fine. As long as this is a whole number, you're fine. So then it's going to be 3 divided by 2.4. And you make sure to put the 2 right there. Or I'm sorry, you make sure to put the decimal point right there because you want these to line up. Okay. All right. Number 6. 3.45 divided by 1.5. Again, if you want to kind of think, well, I'm not sure how to do this, put it in the house, and then you can then you know this is the number that has to be a whole number. So if that's 1 5/10, you're going to multiply 1.5 times, and it's by a tenth, so times 10, which equals 15. Then you're going to do 3.45 times 10, and you're going to move it one place to the left because it's only moving one place. So it's going to equal 34.5. So now this becomes 15 divided by 34.5. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Make sure you're going to, please put your answers. Oh, and then here, remember the decimal point just pops right up on top. Okay. All right. I hope that this helped. Again, I know it's confusing, but think about the pattern. Whenever you multiply it by a tenth or a hundredth or any power of 10, it's always going to equal the same number. All right. Thanks, guys. Now you can go ahead and do the rest of the problems on the share and show, and then work on the PMT.